I really think when it comes to business and marketing, there's not one right way. Like you can look and you can see proof points of every single thing working. But what people don't share because they want to make money is they'll say, buy my whatever, my proven model, blah, blah. And what they're not sharing is the journey that they took to get there. And so people will invest in a system or a framework or a program or a coach because they think that they've been sold and convinced that that's the right way. But then they get into it and they're disappointed because only like 0.1% of people will get results like that person. Because not everyone's business model or lifestyle or energy or, makeup matches this person.
All right, Jess, are you ready to get emotionally uncomfortable?
I am ready. Let's do it.
I actually think this conversation is going to be one of the most impactful, juicy conversations because I attract a lot of professional women raising kids, whether they are self-employed, in corporate, or consulting or anything, or they know somebody that definitely is going to have a challenge or a problem that you can solve for them. And we're talking all things marketing today. But if you are not in marketing or think you don't need marketing, I love putting myself in rooms and conversations that I don't think I belong in because there's always a through line. And there's also going to be a lot that has to do with, I know, getting emotionally uncomfortable, but like leadership skills and imposter syndrome and self-doubt. So I may say it before this, like after this interview is done, but I'm on the business owner visionary side and you're on the marketer side and business owner yourself. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Can you chat a little bit about your professional journey through kind of like a marketing lens? But I would love to hear, I talk a lot about like bringing your soul back to life and living in alignment with how you want to feel. So how you navigated your professional life, but also what you as a human wanted and how you got to where you are.
I love that. And I feel like that bringing my soul back to life is actually like the title of my career journey and story. So I have been in marketing for about 15 years and I started in the tech startup space and moved over into corporate. I was working in Vancouver, BC, Canada. And I was definitely like deep in hustle culture. I lived to work and I was surrounded by people who did that. And then I had babies and everything really changed. I think even before then, I was really, really hitting burnout and getting to a place of like, I can't do this anymore. And I don't even think I realized how much it was impacting me till I was out of the situation. But kind of corporate days was for me like so foundational to what I do now. I was working for Lululemon, leading their marketing for a number of years. I was on agency side, so got exposure to like tons of different brands, campaigns, website builds, app builds, like you name it. And I worked in both small and large companies. So I got this really unique perspective of I got to sit in all roles of marketing. I also got to lead marketing at a big company. I worked with like tiny startup budgets, massive budgets. And I really have this well-rounded perspective of what marketing can look like in various different sizes of business. Fast forward to, burnout phase and having babies. I remember having my first daughter and just thinking, I don't think I can go back to corporate the way that I know it and work life the way that I know it. Like I knew that I wanted to go back to work. Like I love what I do. I love marketing. I love the creative outlet. I am really strategic and I knew I didn't want to give that up, but I knew it needed to look differently. So I had almost this bridge, I would say, into entrepreneurship where one of my best friends was running a nonprofit that supported female entrepreneurs across Canada. And it was COVID. And so everything was shifting online. So not only did they have this massive, big digital transformation that they needed to do with their programming and education, but they also suddenly had a bigger opportunity because they were no longer just BC based. They could be like the entire country. So it was a really cool time to be working with them. And I got to step into and lead their marketing. And what was cool was the woman running it was a friend of mine. She had kids at the time, who does have kids. And young kids and was very much an advocate of work-life balance, family. So I had my daughter at home. I had a nanny, but sometimes she'd wake up early from her nap and I'd be sitting in Zoom meetings with my baby on my lap. And that for me, like having that flexibility and a manager that was saying to me, Jess, I don't care when you work, you just get your stuff done. Like we're adults and whatever needs to happen to get your things done, like I don't care when you do it. That for me was such an unlock for freedom and just being able to shape my life around, or my work around my life. And I knew from there that I could never go back to corporate, to a 9 to 5, like in an office. It just was not going to happen for me. And I had always kind of had this entrepreneurial itch and sort of had this inkling that I would do my own thing one day. And, fast forward to a couple of years later, I was having my second daughter. So now I have an almost 2-year-old and a newborn. And I had this like crazy compulsion to start my own business. And I
like the compulsion. Like
yeah,
it was
I
just
was like
coming out of me.
Literally trying to talk myself out of it. Like, Jess, like Blair's not even 2. Ella is a newborn. Why do you want to start a business right now? Like, this is crazy. You have a job to go back to. And I like really tried to talk myself out of it, but I just knew it was like really something in me that like, this is the time. And I felt really ready for the freedom, the flexibility, and also just taking the reins and building my own thing.
Yeah.
I was really ready for that. So I feel like it was this like journey of coming from a place of burnout and slowly finding what alignment looked like for me. And I honestly love what I do. Like I feel so lucky to have created myself a business and a quote unquote job that does not feel like work. Like I truly have to like make myself step out of my office when my kids are home. Like I love them, but I'm like, oh, I love this too. So yeah, it feels really aligned and it wasn't like a clean or easy journey to get here, but I'm happy I'm here.
So I don't know if it is like an initiation thing as a business owner, but hiring team in general is like a deeply intimate thing. I've hired so many different people for different positions, and marketing was always one of those sticky positions, mainly because I don't come from a marketing background. I come from like a social work therapy background. And so I carried around the story of like, I'm not a marketer. I enjoy sales in the sense of holding space for people to, handling objections and doing all that. But what I realized, sales is psychology and I love psychology. And so that was easier for me. So yes, marketing is still psychology. But anyways, the whole point of this is I then was hiring people that were not aligned or weren't, scratching the itch of like, I was like, not this, not this, not this. And it took a while for me to be like, I know what I need. I know where I'm headed. I know what I want and desire. And my quote unquote needs are not being met versus are my expectations off? And so oftentimes in marketing, when hiring marketing roles, I felt like there was 2 people speaking completely different languages. And then there's also different types of marketing people, and then being manipulated by marketing because people are getting all these ads online and it's, the trust and all of the things. So
Yes.
What a journey. What a journey. The last thing I want to say about this, and then we'll just dive right into the conversation, is, oftentimes when I am working with a woman who needs to do marketing, as in she is a business owner or like outreach is required in order for lead generation to occur or brand awareness or whatever, she's just not actually doing it. And she thinks she's doing it or she's taking it on herself. And so there's a huge crossover of how I see women showing up at home and how I see them showing up in their work and not using discernment, self-trust, deep, deep, deep self-trust, leadership skills, especially when it comes to hiring the right type of person based on their business model or all of things. So I know I just threw a lot at you, but tell me kind of your thoughts, philosophies, and get on that soapbox.
Absolutely. So yeah, hiring, marketing, support is such a big topic. There's so many things to talk about here and so many things that are kind of working against you as a business owner in the industry. And you kind of talked about a few of them. So number one, what I think tends to happen is if you're owning a business and you don't have a marketing background, you don't really know what you need. So you end up hiring someone just based on what you think. So maybe you're too busy to post on social media and you think, I think that's what I have to do. I just have to be posting more on social because you're seeing some person say that on Instagram, right? Or I need to be updating my website, or it's my email list, or whatever the thing is. And you're bringing in that person to do the thing that you think needs done. And then a few things happen. So number one, you've brought in this person, they're doing the things, but you generally don't feel supported. And the reason that is because you're still holding the strategy. You're still the person being like, okay, do we do a campaign? Do I launch? What's my offer positioning? What should I sell? How will I generate leads? This person's just coming in and they're just the doer. They're the order taker. They're like, okay, here, I created this content for you. Here it is. Like they're a cog in a factory machine. And you're still holding all of the big decisions. And that's the stuff that feels hard and heavy and actually has the biggest impact on your business. So that's number one, is you don't feel supported.
Before we get there, I always talk about how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? I want to feel supported. But in what you just said, it's like, I actually want to feel lighter and supported. Like I want to feel like I offboarded something and I'm not just paying somebody for busy work.
Yeah.
And I can see, and I have fallen in that trap too, where I didn't hire for strategy, or then I did hire for strategy. And then they told me that they were also going to be the integrator because they were being the pleaser. I don't fucking know. And I'm like, this is not working and it's not sustainable. And I do want to talk about like who to hire when based on revenue or stage, but we can do that after.
Yeah.
So
you talked about like, how do you want to feel when you're thinking support? And I think the thing is people should be thinking a little bit more about like the outcomes they want and looking at, so instead of like, I want to feel supported, like what would that actually look like? What would that feel like? Because again, I think what happens is people will pull in somebody and then they realize all of the decisions and things they're still left with on their plate. So really looking at that and figuring out like what actually is here that feels hard or difficult or time consuming or, really isn't my skill set. So that piece. And then when it comes to strategy versus execution, I think another thing that is, a misconception in online business or a smaller business is that you can have one person to do it all, and you can't. And there will be people that will sell you that they can, and you can do that. But that's a whole other thing. I think there's a lot of like selling and unethical, convincing in this industry. But coming back to the role itself, I've been in marketing for 15 years. When you are in someone's business deeply executing on things, like let's just pretend, you were going to do some sort of a launch campaign around your coaching. We want to drive more coaching clients for you. I put together a strategy for you. Once I get into actually doing the things, like let's say we were going to update your landing page, do some social content, email, podcast stuff, ads, all these things. Once you get into the doing, you are so in it that you cannot see the forest through the trees. And no one can tell me otherwise. I've been in those roles. You cannot. You don't have the brain space. You don't have the capacity. It's not possible. And multiply that by when you're hiring someone, unless they're full-time in your business, they usually have other clients. So they don't have the brain capacity to be looking at the strategy of your business and understanding, is your offer positioned the right way? Do you have an offer ladder that is ascending people? Are you maximizing customer retention? Are you, could you be getting more revenue out of your existing customers? Are you even on the right channels? Are you doing too many things? Often that is the case. So looking at these really foundational things, like often that doesn't happen because people just get in and they have blinders on and it's like heads down and they just do. And it's not to say you can't get results that way, because you can. But a lot of the times I come into clients' businesses and it's like, holy shit, even if whether they have like one person or a team of 10, there's usually a lot of stuff going on that doesn't need to happen. And no one has stopped and said, hey, like, how can we optimize this? Are we doing the right things? What's actually working and what's not? How do we know where to be focused? How do we know what we can drop? That's kind of a waste of our time. So it's really impossible to be in both places, especially when you start working ongoing with somebody, because you just can't. You cannot do both of those. So I think that's the other piece, is like knowing and understanding that the strategy, what you're doing, who you're talking to, how you're selling your offers, your products, the what, all of that piece that's like big and impactful and the most needle moving, that stuff needs to be one person. And then the execution can be one or multiple people. And that really depends on like what this is over here. So what is your strategy? That determines what you need as far as execution. And I think a lot of the times people hire backwards. They think, oh, we don't have a team. I don't have anyone to do the things. Like, why would I need a CMO? And it's like, well, that's exactly why you need a CMO. So you don't waste a whole bunch of money and years hiring people and like basically burning your money doing things that are not actually moving the needle for your business because maybe your offer positioning is way off. So yeah, that's my hot take on like hiring order.
Love it. I was going to say define CMO, because someone might not even know when they're listening. They're like, what is this?
Chief Marketing Officer. So essentially what this is somebody leading your marketing strategy and team. And I will say a couple things about this role. Number one is it has massively grown in the last 5 years. And there are a lot of people who put fractional CMO or CMO in their title, and that's not the work that they do. So what I'm talking about is a true marketing leader. So someone who's going to come in and look at your business from a really high level perspective. So again, what are you selling? Who's your target audience? Who are your competitors? What's your positioning? I also look at your life goals. Like I want to understand, are you a mom? Do you have kids? How much time can you work? What's your capacity for growth? Do you want to grow or do you want to maintain your revenue? Like we want to understand all this because otherwise we end up building a business model that actually isn't aligned to who we are and what we want. And that is like such a mistake. So someone who's really looking at those things and making sure that like it's like stop and rewind. Are you on the right channels? Is your offer positioned well? Like look at all those things and then you can figure out based on the budget you have available, the time you have available, your goals, the kind of business you want to build, where your customers are, how they make purchasing decisions. You can decide based on all of those things what you should be doing for marketing. And then you decide who to hire to actually do that stuff. But I find a lot of that pre-work is not done and it's someone just guessing or like kind of pulling out of thin air what they think feels like the easiest thing, like social content or email, or I need to update my branding. So I see the CMO role. I personally feel like it's like having almost like an insurance for your marketing budget and marketing efforts. Someone inside your business, making sure you're not wasting money, spending too much, or focusing on the wrong things. And that every single little bit of energy, effort, revenue, like budget is being directed towards the most needle moving things.
As you're talking, I'm putting it through the lens of how I work with people. And it's a very similar, let's call it identity or way of being in the world, throwing noodles at the wall and this like, let's do more until it works. And then when I talk about that with how do you want to feel like in your relationships at home, like investing your time and your energy and learning to reverse engineer that, you mentioned a few like questions of like, what lifestyle do you want? How much time do you have? Like, let's reverse engineer that. And having a vision, right? Like whether it's vision or strategy, it's like you need to know where you're going and then reverse engineer that. And most don't do that. So when I'm working with people and they have a business, and I'm like, you are like the biggest energy leak you have in your business is either marketing or sales because you don't actually have a lead generator. And you've gotten away with it up until this point and it's no longer sustainable. And I'm curious what you have seen, whether they are brick and mortar or even in the, if they are online, or concoction of both whether it's product based, service based, professional. I'm like, you're not even number one, you're not even doing marketing. And you have been doing the whole marketing. You can't be practitioner and marketer. And you don't have anybody around you that is owning marketing at all. So of course it's going to be the last thing on your to-do list.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I see as far as coming into clients' businesses or even talking to business owners is that they are usually the biggest block to their own growth because they're trying to do it all. Like, just for an example, we did a case study recently with one of our clients who has a membership training program for data analysts. And so not I'm like just creative marketer over here, but he was doing literally everything himself. Actually, another client, very similar story. And both clients, we've been able to come into their business and almost double their revenue, both of them, because they have help and support now. And they were doing things that were sort of like blanket approach to marketing. Like, I'm going to go on XYZ channel because it's a marketing channel. But it's like no one had come in and said, well, hey, is your buyer over there? Like, is that how they would decide? Like, would they actually buy from a TikTok video? So I think there's a lot of that going on, just too much stuff. And I think when someone's not getting help, not bringing in help, they don't know what they don't know. I find there's a lot of, we'll come in and work with clients and they're like, wow, I had no idea about all of this. And so it can be really powerful to have the help and have somebody show you.
Hiring experts and professionals. I think as women too, I just had a moment this morning where I reached out to some female colleagues and I was like, I'm struggling with something and I just need help. I just need a thought partner. I don't need we just need other people. And we have a tendency to isolate. And then I think you mentioned it, and it was probably before we hit record. Then people just wait too long when they decide, oh, now I need help. And then you hire the help, and then you're like, okay, this better be instant results. And it's like, you don't even have the financial capacity to invest in this, and that you've waited too long, and now you're in this survival state or crisis state, and you cannot operate from that place either. And I've definitely been in those places as a business owner. Okay, here's the other thing I want to say. In hindsight, it's not about not hiring somebody, it's who to hire when and what. And I know you have CMO school, which honestly, if somebody had that on their resume or said, I, was in CMO school or worked with Jess, I'd be like, that raises a standard, because people, it's not like, oh, I just did marketing. Like, they're invested in, how do I become a better support system for people? Because I do think business owners can be assholes sometimes. Entrepreneurs are not the easiest, or business owners are not the easiest personality to work with. I always say, am I a crazy visionary, in the sense of, I'm trying not to be a chaotic boss? Do that in alignment, but the ambition, and we want to move really, really fast. And what I value and respect in my team is when they can be grounded, hold their own their role, and give me pushback and challenge me, but also hear my vision and that duality. So just curious your thoughts here.
I love what you said there. And there's a couple things I want to talk about. Number one is the notion of, you being like what did you call yourself? A crazy visionary. I'm going to come back to that one.
That's my fear, is being
I love it. I want to talk about that. It's such a theme. And then also the order of hiring. So I'm going to talk about that visionary piece. I will say, working with clients, most of our clients are visionaries. Like, most people who get into entrepreneurship have some element of that, of shiny object syndrome a little bit, big visions, sometimes depending on your personality type is right. Sometimes kind of changing paths and whatnot. And I think it's that intersection of that person with a really strong CMO or business advisor, if they've got some, legit experience, that is the perfect recipe, because there's actually nothing wrong with a visionary. I actually love my visionary clients who have a lot of ideas, who are very creative and push for the best and have these big aggressive goals. I love all of that, because I feel like it pushes myself and my team to think bigger, and they bring some really unique, interesting ideas to the table. And I think that having the right person beside you actually balances that out. So if you have a strong CMO, what that person will do is hear your ideas and then think about that in the bigger picture of, okay, because I've come in and I've done a deep discovery and I know and understand your goals for your life and your business on a long-term basis, and I know and understand your expertise and your offerings or your products or your services, and I know and understand your audience or how they buy and all of these things, they can be that voice of reason of saying, okay, this is where we're going. And this thing actually does make sense, or it's going to actually make that other thing faster or better. So yeah, let's do this because it makes sense with the plan. Or, you know what? That actually doesn't fit with this plan, but is your vision changing? Or, you know what? That feels like it's way over here. That feels like a next year thing. So they can be that voice of reason and help you figure out like what of these ideas do you act on and bring to life versus not. And the difference is too, is when you hire someone who is like, how I train my students when they're stepping into the CMO role is we sit beside our clients. We're partners, we're advisors, we're not order takers, and we're not doers. You do not want someone in your business who's a yes man. You don't want someone who's just going to do whatever you say, because that's when you end up having this chaotic thing where you look back and you're like, whoa, I'm no further ahead. If anything, I'm behind because I just did 50 things all year long and everybody just said yes to me. So having that person be discerning and make sure that we're all holding the same vision and like marching to the same beat of the drum is so important. Then all the other people doing the things, or even if it's one person, is aligned as well and understands the bigger picture goal. So there's that. And then I'll talk about like hiring order and phases and timing and stuff like that, because I know it can be confusing. And I think there's a misconception for sure around, you hear the term CMO or Chief Marketing Officer and you think, okay, that's a strategic role. Like that's a leadership role. Like I probably am not ready for that because I don't have a team. And I feel like it's actually backwards. So then the way that I teach and the way that I work with clients is I do have various packages for various stages of business. When someone's just starting, they need a strategy. So it doesn't matter if your business is like day one, no revenue, you need a strategy. And I would pay to get a strategy done by an actual marketer with a background in marketing, education in marketing, get a proper strategy done so you know what you're doing in marketing. That is like a non-negotiable. Then number two is you can actually work with CMOs or strategic marketing advisors on an advisory basis. So it doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't mean you need to have a team. You could be in a position where you're like, hey, I don't have a ton of extra cash, but I do have a little bit. And right now I'm going to be doing all of my marketing because I don't have enough money to hire a team. But if you have a fractional CMO or somebody advising you, they'll make sure and help you and teach you and point you in the right direction and ensure that everything you're doing is done well and you're having that coaching and advisory so that you're getting better results from your effort put in. Then when it comes to, you get to a place where you're like, okay, I do have a little bit of money. This is where people end up making the biggest mistakes. And this is truly where I believe people get like disillusioned and disappointed and upset and let down when it comes to marketing is they're like, I have some cash. I'm going to hire, I don't know, a social person, or I'm going to hire this launch strategist or whatnot. And they end up just hiring kind of whoever's peripherally in their world. And I find when you don't have that advisor, I almost call it like your marketing insurance, right? You don't have that person who's like, I picture it like, your best friend is a marketer and they're in your back pocket and you can ask them anything, anytime. It's like, hey, should I make this hire? Is this the right person? Even if this is the right area of expertise, do they have the right skill set? Like as a business owner, most people don't know who to hire, in what order, what kind of things to ask, what things to look for. So they end up hiring the wrong skill set, the wrong person. They make all these mistakes and then they're disappointed. That person still having if you kind of rewind, we've got your strategy, you've got this advisor. Now this advisor is protecting you from making mistakes and wasting money and wasting time on the wrong people. So then you're bringing in the right people from the get-go. Because we'll look at clients and we'll say, okay, if you don't have a lot of money and we're thinking about like your marketing as a whole and where should you be showing up, this is the best thing to do with your money. This is the best thing right now with this available budget you have and where, like what tactics make sense. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about just having someone help you essentially not waste all of your money and time on the wrong things, because that can eat up like absolute years of your business.
I'm having a visceral response right now.
that way, because just the lessons over the years, and even just that belief of I can't afford it. It's like opportunity cost and loss. You don't know what you don't know. And when people say, I know what I need to do, I'm just not doing it. And I was like, OMG, there's just so many limiting beliefs and bottlenecks that people put in their way. And it's required. Marketing is required in any business, and the marketing landscape is constantly changing. And if you are not evolving with it, it's going to change. And I'm sure you've seen this, but I've seen it some with clients who have like brick and mortars. It's not working the same way that it used to. People aren't leaving their house the same way that, they used to. And I'm like, we all have seasons where it's like, oh, this is easy. And I was like, ride the wave of ease because the markets change. So I want people who are listening to this conversation, I guarantee you their mind is like blown. First of all, when I am leaning into a problem that I need to solve, one of the things that I like to do is listen to a lot of people, and then I watch the through line. And I've had to learn over the years, like, I know what I'm doing, like, trust myself to make deep aligned decisions. Trust that you know what the fuck you're doing. You started this business, or you are a leader in some capacity, and you may not know marketing per se, but you know people, and like you can ask people questions. And if something feels off to you, ask.
Number one, yes, the industry is changing massively. Consumer behavior is changing massively. There's been some huge things over the past like 5 to 8 years that have massively impacted how we live and buy and behave, and we're not out of it. And I think that there's a misconception that there's one right answer and there's one way, and that can cause people to lose self-confidence and be like, I don't know, you know better than me. And I think you're so spot on with listening to your intuition. I will have clients, and in fact, I'm working with a client right now where they have had just, this intuition that their ads agency was not the right fit. They weren't doing a great job. I get in absolutely like everything that they were feeling, they're spot on. And they were doubting themselves because their background is not in marketing. But when something feels off, and you might not know exactly what it is, but you do know. And similarly, when you're hiring, like you can trust that too. And I think one of the things that bothers me the absolute most about this marketing industry, and when you go online to get marketing help or advice, is that people are selling you something often. And there's not a lot of ethical people out there. And sorry to say that, but there really isn't in sales and marketing. Number one, people, if they're doing a thing, they're going to sell you that thing. So they might be an expert in Facebook ads and VSL funnels, and they will convince you all day long that that's going to blow up your business and that's the only thing you need. Or then you go next door and you talk to so-and-so with an evergreen funnel that's generated $10 million for them, and like suddenly that's what you need to do. And I think it's such a lie that there's one right thing, but people who do one thing will convince you that that's what you need. So that's number one. And I think a lot of people get disillusioned, and because they will buy into that and be like, oh, I did this thing and it didn't work, and multiply that 10 times, and you've wasted tons of time and money and you feel shitty. Then with this notion that there is one right way, I think what happens is there's a big boom right now. We're in this like moment in time in our history where there's a lot of Instagram famous coaches, business coaches, and we know they have a big podcast or something. And because of their notoriety, or how big their brand name is, their personal brand, people will pay $50K, $100K, like more to be in the room with them or be in a mastermind. And they think that they're investing in strategic guidance. And what happens is some element of this. They will hop on a coaching call with this person. They'll get 2 minutes of their time. This person has no context. They don't know anything about this person's life. Like, are they, one paycheck away from like they're missing a mortgage payment and losing their house? Do they have kids? Are they single? You know what I mean? Like, they just don't have any context. What have you tried? What's the positioning of your offer? Who's your audience? How do they buy? Blah, blah, blah. And what happens is they're giving them business advice based on really nothing, like based on their own success, which is not duplicatable. I really think when it comes to business and marketing, there's not one right way. Like you can look and you can see proof points of every single thing working. DM sales, only DM sales, and you can grow your business to $10 million. Oh, funnel, Facebook ads, door to door, whatever, like literally anything. All of this stuff works. And there's proof points, there's case studies out there. But what people don't share because they want to make money is they'll say, buy my whatever, my proven model, blah, blah. And what they're not sharing is the journey that they took to get there. And so people will invest in a system or a framework or a program or a coach because they think that they've been sold and convinced that that's the right way. But then they get into it and they're disappointed because only like 0.1% of people will get results like that person, because not everyone's business model or lifestyle or energy or, makeup matches this person. So I'll give you a perfect example. This literally happened to me. Even like I'm in marketing and I fell victim to this last year. I joined a mastermind and it was somebody who I had admired for a while, and his business exploded overnight. And suddenly I found myself listening to his advice about like, you're doing too many things and, simple scales, complex fails, and you need to simplify, like cut this thing from your business. So I actually shut down Fractional CMO School, my training program where I train other marketers and fractional CMOs on how I do what I do. And in doing that, I thought, okay, I really need to focus on my clients and my agency side and like be the best ever at serving our clients. And so now I know a lot more about my human design, and I'm a manifesting generator. And in doing that, I literally killed all of my passion for my career. Like the beginning of this year, I was like so lost. I didn't know what way was up. I couldn't find the energy or passion to post online or do my own marketing. And I truly I just didn't know what I was doing anymore. And, long story short, through this like winding journey of 2025, I like found myself again and brought my program back and all of these things. And, it just is such a point to show that like this happens, I think, a lot to people where they're taking advice from someone who doesn't truly know them, doesn't know their business, doesn't know their capacity, doesn't know anything about them. And then they're acting on that and it's just not in their best interest and it's not the right thing for them.
I think I know what program you're talking about. And you are not the first female to tell me the exact same thing. And I'm very curious if you can reflect on why unconsciously you took that individual's advice without a lot of one-on-one contact or personalized strategy. And I will tell you, personally, I have seen this happen again and again to people. I've invested in a few things that I regret. But what I'm starting to see is that we don't necessarily need one-on-one all the time, but we need personalized attention and just connection and authenticity. And a lot of times I can see gaps and holes in people. I'm like, you need to like do this or you need to do that. And I watch people have resistance and pushback to it of like, you need to go see Jess and you need a strategy. And before you even decide that you want to run a group coaching program or you need to start a course, you need to sell way more than what you've already sold to get enough proof and build that up. And this whole concept of if you sell a course or create a course, then this is da da da. And I'm like, there's also this huge unlearning of like, and kind of like you said, I fell prey or victim to it. But this whole unlearning of the online industry of people believing, oh, I want an online business so I can have more freedom. And I'm like, this is not equal more freedom if you don't have discernment and like inner personal development skills on decision making and like guiding yourself. And I've watched people have raging PTSD of even trusting themselves because of past investment decisions. And I'm like, you learn from something, but yeah, I'm in the position where I tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And the pushback sometimes, I actually just had a perfect example of this today. The pushback is not nice all the time because they're like, they get spicy sometimes when you bring people to their growth edge, and they'll resist, and it's like, stop investing your time and energy here. Like, you like this, why are you doing this? And I'm like, what do you want to do? And it's like, well, so and so told me to do this. Anyways, my point of that is, I did a check-in with her a year later, and she's like, light as a feather. And I was like, what fucking changed? And she's like, you annoyed the shit out of me, you cracked me, you brought me to my knees, and I'm so fucking grateful, because now when I'm building my business, I'm doing it from a place of discernment and alignment, and I am not buying into the bullshit that's coming at me. And I was like, fuck, yes, that's what I want, women specifically.
I love that so much. Okay, you said a few things that I literally wrote down notes because I was like, I want to talk about all three of those things. One, I am, despite what I might have sounded like, I'm such an advocate of group programs and in general, investing in myself. I do that all the time. I think group programs can be incredible. Getting yourself in the room with, people who are like making your vision bigger, supporting you, all the things. There's a million benefits to group programs, but I think they tick certain boxes, right? They're not meant to be your in-depth marketing and business plan. And I think this is a good example. So I have a client who is in Amy Porterfield's highest mastermind, but they also have me as their CMO because Amy's not their CMO. And yes, they can learn a lot from her. Like, she's been extremely successful. There's a lot she can share, but they still need something unique to their business from somebody who is deeply in their business. So there's a difference there. That's, I think my take on group programs and sort of where they sit. Then you mentioned investing. So I think that there is so much PTSD around investment pieces. And I will say, this is just my personal experience, is I actually don't have any regret investing in that program or anything else. I think that every single thing that happens to us happens for us. I strongly believe that, as shitty as things can feel sometimes in the moment. But I can always look back and say, okay, if that really awful thing didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have this. I wouldn't have become the person that I am now. And so I think just like, if you've been in a place ever where you've felt hurt or disillusioned or let down by investments, like, know that, like, I think these things are always teaching us something. And then the last thing you mentioned around self-trust, that is a huge thing. And you asked me, why did I invest? Why did I listen to that person? And this is funny. I actually did a carousel post on this not long ago that went like baby viral on LinkedIn, and baby viral for me because I'm starting to be my own best marketer and post again. So basically what I had shared, the tagline on the front of the carousel was, and I have been in marketing for 15 years. Sometimes I feel like I'm bad at marketing, and I know I'm not alone. And the whole carousel was just about how, even as a marketer, even though this is my craft, I went to school for it. I worked at some of, the biggest like Fortune 500 companies. I've worked with huge brands. Like, I have been in this industry deeply for a long time, and I know that I'm good at what I do. I still have moments where I doubt myself, and I'm like, am I shitty? Like, oh my God, I'm not getting results in 90 days. Like, I can't do this for my client. Like, they think I'm not worth it, all these things. And I think ultimately what happens is we believe this one thing to be true, and that underpins like all of our insecurity. We believe that there's one right way and there's not. And so anytime I've lost myself or felt like, okay, I don't know it, I'm going to listen to that person, it's because I don't believe that I have the answers. And I believe that there's a quote unquote right way, and I just don't know it. There's like some secret that I don't have that they have. And that's so not true. And when I'm, in my highest self and feeling centered, I know that, and I can hold space and ground my clients in that too. Because often I think with marketing, there's this moment of, I just having a conversation with the client who was starting to spin his wheels a bit. And he's like, oh, should we do this that year, next year? Like, he's starting to have all these millions of like ChatGPT generate me 50 ideas of whatever, panic attacks, right? And I think what happens is we're sold this lie that it's easy and quick. And, you mentioned it, online business, freedom, blah, blah. And it's sure, after like a bunch of work, it can get there where you have these engines that work really well for you and drive sales, but like, you don't get there overnight. And none of those pieces are proven. So again, whether you're choosing to do a Facebook ads funnel or SEO or whatever, a launch or an evergreen thing or whatever the thing is that you're choosing to do, all of that can work if you stick to it and optimize it and give it time. But it's when you start to lose trust and lose faith and be like, okay, I tried this, that's not working. Maybe so you're constantly on this quest for the right answer and the right thing. And then again, you're starting to, for me as a marketer, I've been in that place where I'm like, okay, I just, this isn't working fast enough, because you're wanting fast results because that's what we're told, right? So it's that lie that things should be fast and easy, and that belief that there's one way out there. And I think that alone can just shake your confidence and have you outsource the answers and not believe that you know the way. Even if you hire someone, honestly, to bring in marketing support, like if they recommended, okay, I think you should be live launching once a month, and like that's the best way to grow your business, you need to still have your own discernment. Like, does that feel good for me energetically? Do I want to do that? Because that's not the only way to grow your business. Like, you can grow your business anyway with great marketing. You just want to find something that feels good for you.
Damn. We could talk forever and ever. And I see the parallels between leadership and who you need to become in order to attract the life and career you want and desire. The one thing that is sticking with me based on what you just said is, what's that stupid quote? The best time to plant a tree was yesterday or today or whatever, 20 years ago. You got to be in it for the long game, and it can't be a quick hit or quick fix. And
Yeah.
fuck me, I have learned that lesson over and over and over again. And not just with marketing, right? It's like with health, muscle building, parenting, money, investing. And it's like, okay, I'm seeing a trend.
It's a marathon. Like, we need to find ways of doing and living and being and building businesses that's sustainable for us, because it's not going to happen overnight. And those quick things, like, they don't stick and last. And so finding something that feels aligned is the most important piece.
Jess, I want to say thank you. And
thank you.
Where can people find more of you, getting your world, whether they are someone who would be great for CMO school or somebody who maybe needs support with marketing?
They can find me on LinkedIn, just search my name, or they can find me on Instagram. It's marketing.by.jess, or you can visit the CMOoffice.com. And then I also have a podcast, CMO School. It's more targeted towards the marketers wanting to be fractional CMOs, but it's there.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks for having me. That was fun.